What's up, everybody? I'm your host, A Bloody Chainsaw, and that is my co-host, A Blood-Soaked Santa Suit. And welcome to the Grindhouse Syndicate fresh meat review of Damien Leone's highly anticipated Terrifier 3. You guys know how it goes. We just arrived home from the theater. We have not spoken a single word to each other about the film. That means no elbow nudges in the seat, no hallway talk on the way out, and definitely no car chatter. We walk straight in the door and right into the studio. Now, if this is your first Fresh Meat review, I'll explain how it goes. So the first half of this episode is no spoilers. So if you're on the fence about seeing the film but don't want it ruined, we got you covered. Then, after a fair warning, we will then jump right into the nitty-gritty and talk about everything we loved and hated about this movie. We have finally made it to Terrifier 3.
Yeah, this is a really hard one to not talk about. Like it was so hard in the middle of the movie, and no elbow nudges. Like normally anybody out there who has like somebody they go watch movies with knows like that when you leave the movie and talking about it. And we've had to sacrifice that for the show.
Yeah.
On the movies that we do reviews on. This was the hardest one by far.
Well,
I wanted to talk about this so bad when we walked out.
We did slightly cheat because there is a character in this movie where, one, I looked over and said, I can't wait for her to get killed. And two, when we seen how this character was going to get killed, I was like, oh my God, yes.
Yeah, but that was the previews. The previews did that.
Yeah.
Because we kind of knew from the previews where the chainsaw was going to be.
I didn't know it was going to be this character, though.
Yeah, but no, we didn't. We didn't know that. So we did spoil each other's excitement revealing on the show about how happy we were about that. But other than that, like walking out of the movie theater, man, it's hard. And I even like it's probably harder for you because I have a wife to at least talk to.
Yeah,
when you put in the
earplugs,
yeah, but it's not the same.
No, I would say, and I could be wrong, but I think this was the most anticipated and probably biggest horror movie of the year. Is there something that you think is more anticipated than Terrifier 3, or do you agree with that?
I would agree with it, at least personally. I think for people like us and people who are really big into slashers and really big fans of the other Terrifiers, I don't think there's anything that's come out this year or going to come out this year that's going to compete with that level of notoriety that this had.
I would agree. All right. So let's talk about the no spoilers version of this movie. So what is this movie about, you may ask? Well, taking place on Christmas, the story follows Sienna Shaw as she attempts to rebuild her life while Art the Clown is in pursuit of her alongside his new accomplice, Victoria Hayes. So ratings. We don't have a lot of ratings because we actually seen it a little early. Rotten Tomatoes, it's got a 74%, and IMDb, it's got a 6.4 out of 10. So
Yeah,
not terrible.
Well, I could see this movie being middle of the road because there's going to be the fans. Like, if you're a fan of Terrifier, you are going to fucking love this movie. For those who have been dragged along by friends that are fans or just got, caught up in the hype of hearing people like, when The Exorcist came out, there was all the people throwing up in the theaters and people went and seen it just because of the hype. There's going to be some people that go and see this and are like, oh my God, what in the fuck did I just watch?
Yeah. So Terrifier 3 is a 2024 American Christmas slasher film. I didn't even know that was a subgenre. It was written and directed by Damien Leone and stars David Howard Thornton, Lauren Levera, and Elliot Fulham. It was produced by Dark Age Cinema, distributed by Cineverse, and had a budget of $2 million. Now, in case you don't remember or you don't know, the first Terrifier had only a $35,000 budget. The second Terrifier had a $250,000 budget, and this one we're jumping up to $2 million. So principal photography began on February of 2024 and wrapped that April. It premiered at Fantastic Fest in Austin, Texas on September 19, 2024, and will be released theatrically on October 11th. The film received genuinely positive reviews from critics. In December of 2023, it was confirmed that Chris Jericho was set to appear in Terrifier 3. In April of 2024, it was confirmed that Daniel Roebuck was set to appear as Santa Claus in the film. In May of 2024, it was announced that Tom Savini was set to also appear in Terrifier 3, which was a cool cameo. Leone chose to shoot the film using Panavision anamorphic lenses with the intention of making the film look like a vintage John Carpenter movie. France's classification committee banned viewers under the age of 18 from seeing the film, the first time such a ban had been issued since the release of Saw 3 in 2006. There were also reports of audiences vomiting and leaving theaters after watching the film's opening scene in the UK. Another report consisted of 2 people passing out during a screening of the film in Australia. In September of 2024, Leone confirmed that Terrifier 4 was in development. All right, so the first thing I want to jump to is characters. So we got Art. He's back.
If you're listening to this, you probably know who we're talking about.
Most likely. We got Sienna Shaw. She's back. Her brother Jonathan's back. What did you think of these characters coming back? They're returning.
Well, I mean, those 3 you mentioned are pretty obvious. I think it would be crazy to have a third one without those. I know you weren't the biggest fan of Jonathan. His little heart couldn't take a third one. But, I was glad to see they brought him back. Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about it last time. Sienna Shaw is, in my opinion, the best final girl we've gotten in a long, long, long time. And I'd love to see her return.
Yeah, her return, though, was, and it makes sense from a story standpoint, but she definitely returned broken in this movie.
Yeah, that was one that kind of surprised me, is the level of issues that she has.
Yeah, I mean, there's a time jump here, so it's not immediately after the events of Terrifier 2. So we do have a time jump, and she's had a really hard time with the past few years dealing with what has went on. And we do get a little bit of information of kind of what went on in those couple of years, which kind of makes her situation a little worse. Jonathan, he is older. He's now in college, right?
Yeah, it's just starting college.
Yeah, he's in college, and he seems to have things a little more together, but you see that he's a little broken as well.
Well, and we see that right after the events of part 2, he was kind of on the same level, but he's handled it with time a little better.
Yeah, we also get, which we didn't get a lot in the in Terrifier 2, we get way more Victoria Hayes in this movie, way more than what we had seen her before. And if you're a big Terrifier fan, you know her awesome fucking makeup. And you get to see so much of it more in this movie, and it just showcases the makeup skills that they have.
Yeah, she really I don't know how much I can say of this without in the spoiler version of it. She replaces the little girl in this movie. She does. And, I was very surprised. I had heard that before, and I did everything I could to stay away from spoilers. And somebody literally titled a fucking video on YouTube that she wasn't going to be in the movie, and here's why.
What a bastard.
I'm like, why would you title your fucking video that? What the hell? Anyway, yeah, so I'd seen that, and I was not so happy about that. But after watching it, I think it went really well.
Yeah, she is a much different character because we didn't really see a lot of her in the second one. we do catch her at the end, and it makes the end of that and her sequence in the very end. Was it like it was originally like a after credit scene, wasn't it?
Yeah,
With
yeah,
her
the post
having
credits
yeah.
with Chris Jericho.
Yeah, it makes that scene make a lot more sense, but you also it really opens up the story of what's the deal with her, and we finally get an idea of her place in the story.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely they do shed light on that. I think they shed light on a lot. If you really paid attention, like I think a lot of people would come away that don't know the story as well with a lot of questions still. But if you follow this closely, they really do answer the question behind the little girl and her, and that ties back into why the little girl wasn't in this one. Yeah, I thought that character was a much creepier,
Much scarier. She's
scarier.
actually
Yeah,
scary, yeah.
yeah.
All right, so how is your feelings about this movie taking place during Christmas? I remember originally you weren't a big fan of the moving from Halloween to Christmas, but now that we've seen it, what do you think about the Christmas?
Oh, I thought it was great. Yeah, when I first heard that, this is like the first two were like staple Halloween movies. And to see that they were moving away from that, I felt like it was like getting a Michael Myers on Christmas. Like it just, it didn't make a whole lot of sense. But then when I seen the previews, I kind of started, I warmed up to the idea. There's so much that they can do shooting it in the style of a Christmas movie when it comes to sets and decorations and certain kills and just the, a lot of the movie. I mean, even down to the setting. And I think that I'm just going to say this, my personal opinion. I think we have a new best horror Christmas movie.
No,
When we first got back, I had Boris Karloff's Frankenstein that I watched like 2 nights
it
ago.
was weird because it was actually mentioned
Yeah.
in the movie.
Yeah. So I had that, and my child took it out of the player and threw it face down. So I was putting that back in the disc, and I was literally putting it in, and it slotted right next to Krampus. And I thought, wow, this makes Krampus look like fucking A Christmas Story.
I will say that I do like what they did with the Christmas, but I do miss Terrifier as a Halloween movie.
Well, yeah, and I will say though that we do get some Halloween Terrifier too. Like we do get a little bit of that in this movie.
Yeah.
There's parts of it that takes place right after the second movie. And that's another thing I want to say. They did a really good job at balancing those shoots with the Halloween and fall feel and then the Christmas shoots. Like you can feel a difference.
Yeah, this is very much drenched in Christmas though. Once we get to the Christmas time, I mean it's full-blown Christmas. There's no doubt about it. I feel like they kind of take so much from like Christmas shows and movies and they cram it into this horror movie. And I liked it. I didn't dislike it and I was happy that they did it. But I will say I kind of want the next Terrifier to be Halloween again.
I agree. I think we only need one really good Christmas Terrifier. It is at its soul a Halloween movie. I mean, the original murders and stuff took place around Halloween. The murders from Terrifier 1 was Halloween. Terrifier 2 was around Halloween. So, I mean, I thought it was really cool. I wouldn't want to see the rest of them as Christmas. But as far as like it being super Christmas, that doesn't surprise me at all. We know how much Damien Leone really, from a perspective, horror movies, he pays homage to a lot of movies. I mean, he in a ton of it in the second one. When we covered that, there was a lot of movies that they did a nod to. So for him to take these things that make a Christmas movie, and shove it into this fucking awesome slasher doesn't surprise me at all.
All right, and the last thing that I want to touch on here in the spoiler-free version is the fucking kills. So without spoiling the kills, what is your opinion on the kills of this movie? Would you say hands down best Terrifier with kills, or do you think that goes to one or two?
All right, without spoilers. So the kills in this movie are fucking incredible.
Yeah.
I think that this movie by far is the most over the top. Like they talked about when they did Terrifier 2 trying to outdo Terrifier 1, especially the
Yeah.
famous kill that we all know. And then the big question was, how are they going to top Terrifier 2 with this as far as the over the top crazy kills? They did that. I thought they did that really well. I will say this, the first one had the girl cut in half. They put a ton of time in that, especially with a $36,000 budget to pull that off. They obviously,
Impressive.
I think it was just Damien Leone by himself working on that. Spent a lot of time. That was the crown jewel kill. Terrifier 2 was her friend, Sienna's friend, who is literally
Bedroom scene.
Yeah, the bedroom scene. That was their attempt at topping Terrifier 1's kill. This movie, I don't think has one single kill that is supposed to top those. I think there's a bunch of crazy ass kills that are meant to that. I'll say there's multiple kills that would stand with either one of those kills.
I would say that I personally don't think there's a kill that tops the bedroom scene. But there are some really good ones. Like, that doesn't discredit the movie. The kills are a lot more like the really crazy things, like you're saying. They're a lot more spread out in this movie. We have kind of a lot more wild ass shit. But I don't think that there was one that topped, like, he topped the first one with the second one. And then you would assume he was going to top the second one with the third one. I think there's a close runner up, but I don't think that there's one better than the one in Terrifier 2.
Yeah, see, I feel like there's multiple kills in this movie that stand with that kill. I mean, if you remember when we covered the second one, I actually, kill-wise, I still thought the kill from the first Terrifier was cooler. Like, I thought it was a better kill. I thought the bedroom scene kill was really brutal, but it wasn't brutal in how he kills her. It was how long it goes on. That was what really made that kill. There's no kill in this movie that goes on that long.
No,
It's
no,
not like
no.
a 10-minute, just torture fest. But there is way, I think, more brutal and creative ways to really kill somebody in the third one. And I think that there's multiple kills that I would put on the same level as the bedroom scene.
All right, so would you recommend someone go to the theater, wait for VOD, or just skip it?
Oh, if you're a Terrifier fan, 100% go see this movie. If you are not a Terrifier fan, but you like gore and practical effects, which would be very surprising if you hadn't seen Terrifier and you're really into gores and practical effects, but go watch the movie in the theater. If you are queasy, if you're a horror fan that really likes the more psychological or paranormal and you're not very big on the torture porn, as they call it, the awesome practical effects but really gruesome, brutal stuff, do not go to the theaters and see this. Maybe try it at home, and if you can turn it off at home.
Well, I'm going to slightly differ my opinion. I think you should go to the theater and see it, because even if you're not super into that stuff and you're just kind of into horror in general, and you're going to go with, somebody that you want to go to the movies with or a group of friends, I think this is a fun movie to go see in theaters. Like, everybody in that theater is going to be hyped. It's kind of like it brings in these crowds that everyone's ready. Everyone's been anticipating. The first and second one were so wild, and you're going to have kind of a fun experience. And you may get, a little grossed out here or there, hide your eyes, but I think the overall experience is going to be more entertaining and more fun than just sitting at your house probably watching it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. It's a very fun movie, and the people, especially like that are going to the earlier showings, those are big Terrifier fans. Everybody there is going to, be really into it. But I'll stand by. If you are somebody who does not like gore and stuff, if you got a weak stomach, you might want to hold off on this. It's hard for me to put myself in that perspective because, I would have been fucking 12 years old dying to go see this. Now, would I let my child watch this? She's gonna have to wait until she gets a little older. But I've never been in the shoes of somebody who's been like, no, that's too much for me.
I would say, suck it up. Don't be a Jonathan.
And
Go to
take your kids.
Take your fucking kids. Well, that's going to be it for our spoiler-free half. If you have already seen the movie or you don't give a fuck about spoilers, stick around because we are about to jump into the meat and potatoes of this film. If you're not sticking around with us, thank you for listening. We will catch you next time. Keep an eye out for our next regular episode, which drops Monday morning, where we are covering the Blair Witch Project.
It's been a long-awaited one for me.
Yeah. All right, if you're still here, welcome to the spoiler half of our fresh meat review of Damien Leone's Terrifier 3. So, let's talk a little bit about the aftermath of Terrifier 2, which we see in this movie. So we have essentially Sienna is fucked up mentally. We do find out that she almost gets charged with the murders of her mother and friends. And if it wasn't for her brother, like that's the only reason.
Yeah, and a big reason why that happened is so when the police show up at the end of Terrifier 2, the cop that goes in there, Art's headless body murders him and gets out of there. So there was never a body recovered.
She never like technically killed him.
Yeah, no, she didn't. And there's never a body recovered. So essentially all they have is this girl who everybody around her or close to her was brutally murdered. She's saying this evil clown killed them. They have no body.
No proof, really.
Yeah, no proof at all. And she is very mentally messed up from this. So, at the same time, they're seeing this girl who everybody died. There's no killer. She has a crazy story. And she's also having some severe PTSD from the events of the second one.
I was like really stoked when I don't remember her name, her best friend, the one that you really like to kill with the chest, she appears in the movie and she looks fucking awesome. Her chest is like exploded. I was stoked that they just do that in there.
That was Brooke. Her
Yeah,
name was Brooke in that one. Yeah, and she does show up in a vision that she's having, and it's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we definitely see Sienna is really broken. She is not the when we last see her, she's like this badass warrior princess, right? In this, when we see her, she is the fucking opposite of that.
Well, yeah, all the adrenaline wore off. She almost gets charged for the murders, and then she spends 5 years in a mental place. She's in like a home.
Yeah, she goes to the loony bin.
Yeah.
And
that's where she's at.
Is in there
in
for
this
5
movie.
years.
Like she's literally getting picked up. She's not even out of the loony bin. They're letting her out for Christmas to spend Christmas with family that she has, which I believe was her mom's sister.
Yeah.
So her aunt married an uncle and her cousin, her little cousin. So they're allowing her to be signed out, to be taken for Christmas, to spend Christmas with what family she does have. And so she's not only been here for 5 years, but she is stuck in here with doctors trying to convince her that what she says she's seeing doesn't exist. It's not real. So she is a much different person 5 years down the road.
I really wasn't, I didn't hate it, but I also wasn't, a huge fan of them kind of taking Jonathan out of that, I want to say, sidekick role almost, and putting this little girl in there. Because one thing, and we talked about it I think you brought it up to me actually when we just did Terrifier 2, where you talked about like she's the fighter, she's the badass of the group, and he's the brains, right? And then we have that same kind of thing with the little pale girl in Art. And then they kind of threw that out of the window in this movie. And I actually would have rather it been the same teams.
Yeah, I agree. I was surprised by that. I was very surprised that those two didn't get, when I see, for one, I was surprised by her, how mentally broken she was, considering how strong of a final girl she was. Not that I didn't like it. I was just surprised that she was as fucked up as she was. And then the fact that Jonathan, the roles have now kind of reversed. Jonathan's trying to convince her that he's dead and that he no longer exists. And she's the one saying no, which is the opposite of the second
Last
one.
movie, yeah.
But yes, he was the brains and she was the muscle of the first. And then he had the same dynamic with Art and the little girl. And the little girl actually carries on. She's just in a different body. So that makes the end of part 2 make a lot more sense, because when she gives birth in the mental place to Art's head, her eyes fully glow for the first time. It's the same yellow glow that the little pale girl has. And that was, now we know, the demon switching bodies. It no longer needs the little pale girl. It no longer needs to take that form. It has now fully taken control of this other girl. And she is not just the brains. She's the demon's obviously the brains, but she's a fighter too. So now you got two like ruthless killers versus one, and she's kind of lost her sidekick.
Yeah, I will say, I love what they did with Vicky. That was cool. But I do think it was a mistake to not have the little pale girl at all.
I disagree.
You disagree?
I disagree.
Wow, we're on the opposite end of the spectrum.
I liked the little pale girl, but Vicky is fucking legitimately scary. Like,
he is scary.
The end of this movie, whenever the final scene takes place, she is now wearing a Art costume.
Yeah.
And she has a Jesus crown of thorns wrapped around her head.
Which is gnarly.
And she is legitimately fucking scary. The little pale girl was creepy. She's scary. Like, Vicky is scary as fuck. And I think she's a way scarier duo when you combine her with Art. And I did not like that Sienna loses her, because now, she's got this little cousin, but this little cousin's she's not in on this. She's kind of in the dark. Yeah, I will say that little girl who played the little cousin played such a perfect, she played that role so good of a over obsessed, like smaller family or sibling that looks, or not even a sibling, because siblings aren't normally.
She's like an only child.
Yeah, like having a cousin that she looks up to a lot. And God, that girl, I don't know why she played that role so well.
Yeah, another thing that I think was a mistake was what they did with Jonathan. Like, I was fine with everything, but then they really kill him off. Out of nowhere. He has like some interactions with Sienna. He gets upset because this whole thing's getting brought up again. And then we don't even see his death.
Yeah, I do think we will see his death. I think we will see it in the fourth one.
I hope so, because that was a really like a shocker.
Yeah, me and Brooke talked about that in the car. So, and I don't dislike that they killed him off, because one thing that makes this movie and these movies so good is they will kill anybody off. Like, honestly, if they would have killed or taken over Sienna at the end, it would not have fully blown me away, because it's like anything's on the table. And him being such an important character, and to not actually see his death, I think it was done intentionally, because we had this reveal of this head. There's this head sitting in a cage being eaten by rats, and the face is eaten off, and it's just like some meat and skull left. And they say it is the the little cousin, but then they do the big reveal. Well, oh, I got a secret. It's not really her. And they bring her out. And it hit me instantly. But in the movie, it doesn't hit Sienna instantly. She's like, oh my God, you let her go. She's just a kid. But she doesn't even ask herself, who is this other person that's dead in here? And when he goes up and puts the glasses on, that was like, if they would have showed his death, it would have ruined that whole moment. And I think that was a really big moment of the movie. I think we will either get a flashback of his kill. I think he will be post-mortem, like in her head, kind of guiding her now. She's going to be like the demon is to Art. He's going to kind of be guiding her on from death. But I think we will get a flashback of his kill. I think they saved that because they wanted that big reveal.
What did you think of in the finale, the final showdown? What did you think about Vicky? Kind of, Art is now moved to the side, and Vicky, this demon that is like basically has Vicky's body, her really taking over. Like she has, it becomes very obvious. Like she's using Art. And Art now becomes a side character, and it's really Vicky that she's having this showdown with.
Yeah. Vicky was able to give a voice to that side, to Art's side, and that's something we haven't gotten in any of the movies. That's why we don't know a whole lot, because nobody's ever talked. Art doesn't talk. The little pale girl didn't talk. It was, unless she was like emulating a voice or something. So I was okay with that because that helped shed a light on some stuff. It would have been really hard to do the ending that they did without using any language on the other side. I think that she was such a scary character, it worked. And if you really follow the story, so this is coming back from the demons from the Ninth Circle. I mentioned when we covered Terrifier 2 that there was a lot of references to the Ninth Circle. So now it's very clear in the third one that they are tying the demons from the Ninth Circle. And it's been a long time since I've watched it. I've only seen it once, so I need to go back and watch it. But they are the real villains here. They've used Art as a serial killer.
Art is like a hammer.
Yeah.
He's a tool that's being used.
And they mention it in the movie that, the demons need, and this is something Jonathan figures out shortly after and tells Sienna in a letter, because he does a lot of research. And he finds out that these demons, to come into the real world, sometimes they need a vessel to get them in the door. And they pick somebody normally who is a very twisted individual. And Art was in life, what we see in part one.
He's not dead yet.
Yeah, he's not dead.
A demon or anything.
That's why he's so surprised when he wakes up in part two. So they use his body as a vessel. And he is the way they got in the door, but the real enemy is these demons.
Yeah, they take over Vicky's body, which is kind of what we see. We really start to see that in the very, 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 very end of Terrifier 2, but we don't know that's what we're seeing. And then we see here in 3 that Vicky, once her and Art escape, she actually like kills herself. And I think that is when the demon takes over her body, because we don't see any more regular Vicky or have any more Vicky voice after this. Like she gets in this bath, she slices her wrists or whatever.
Yeah, that was the end of her.
That was the end of her, and this demon takes that body over.
So they mentioned when the demon Vicky is talking to Sienna, they're trying to take Sienna's body. They're trying to get into her, and the demon tells her...
I think a lot of people are trying to do that.
Yeah, I agree. We're going to take everything from you to where you're 100% broken, and then and only then will they be able to take over your body. Like, they have to break you. And they mention even like the bitch Vicky, and so you realize through part 2, after the incident and at the end of part 1, this demon has been in and out of Vicky. It's trying to fully take her over. In the post-credit scene at the end of part 2, when she gives birth to Art's head, that is when she finally fully takes Vicky's body over.
Yeah.
And we do see her end Vicky's actual like life where it just becomes a vessel for the demon.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a theory here. So basically, we find out when this demon is confronting Sienna here that she basically explains like you have to just let go and let me kind of take you over. And I've basically killed everybody that you care about in order to break you so I can do this. And I think if you look at Vicky, because this happened to Vicky, if you remember during her interview in 2, or maybe it was the end of 1, she's doing the interview with the lady, and the lady asks her like how she feels or how she felt or something after the attack, and she states, when I look in the mirror or I see like kids' reactions to my face, I kind of just want to die. And I think that was what brought Vicky down. Like Vicky
that was the first time. Right after that is the first time the demon gets into her body for the first time.
And I think that was it, where she basically admits to the world that she hates her face, hates her situation, and just would rather be dead. And I think that was the door opening for this thing to jump in.
And they need Sienna to get to that point.
Yeah,
and they need to take everything away from her to be able to fully take her body over. And that is kind of what they're trying to do this entire movie.
All right, so the last thing we could talk about is what we're all here for. The fucking kills.
Oh man,
yeah.
I needed a notebook in there to talk about like the amazing kills.
So I will say, opening kill was awesome. The whole opening is awesome. I don't see though and I probably, because I'm just not one of those people, but I didn't see anything worth being like, oh my god, I'm walking out.
Well, I think that is, so we don't see it. We hear it happening, and then we see the aftermath. But Art chops up a little kid.
Yeah.
He's like probably 10, 11 years old. We don't see him much on screen, but he literally cuts him up with an axe. And then we see what was left of the kid. And I think that may be where some people, especially people who weren't fans of Terrifier that just went to see it with somebody else, or for whatever reason, that was kind of where they drew the line. Because it seems like killing kids off in terrible ways has always been like a
taboo.
You don't do that.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to do anything in Terrifier.
Yeah, I personally didn't think it was all that bad. You know, like you said, we don't actually see the kid getting fucking hacked up. We do see the aftermath of it, but I didn't really think anything in that opening scene was all that terrible. But then again, I watched terrible. I literally have a show on terrible fucking special effects kills. So
yeah, I
it doesn't bother me.
I thought that there was. I thought how they did it with him killing the kids was very. It was a good way to do it.
I think it was smart.
Yeah, they didn't actually show it to the point where it was like you see a kid screaming and getting chopped up. They did show the aftermath, which is just practical effects. And I mean, you got to know this is a movie.
Not really
it's
a
not
child.
real. Yeah, and then the little girl at the end is kind of the end of the scene. We don't ever actually see her get killed either. So yeah, I don't get that. I thought there was much worse stuff throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Or I won't say worse, better stuff. It was depending on how you look at that. I thought there was awesome fucking kills that topped the opening scene. But one thing I loved about it was the Christmas. The whole like him being Santa coming in there, and this little girl thinking he's putting presents under the tree, which they put a lot of this in a preview like that they released a long time ago. I love that aspect of it.
We haven't seen, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure we have not seen a liquid nitrogen death since Jason X.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's done it, but I can't think in a big movie. This one's really cool too, because the Jason liquid nitrogen is really awesome, but this one is a lot more realistic of what killing somebody with liquid nitrogen would look like. And, you know, in Jason X, her whole head freezes like inside and then it just shatters. With this, in real life, liquid nitrogen would more freeze your outside skin, but the inside, since your blood and stuff would still pump, your insides would, being much warmer, would not completely freeze over instantly like that. And the liquid nitrogen kill was fucking awesome.
Dude, when he rips like his face off and you can see his other eye moving because he's, still
Yeah.
alive, and then the busting of the legs, like he hits a fucking leg and only breaks like the shin and part of the calf off, but you see like the main meat of the leg is still there. And it's really good. It's a really good kill.
Yeah, it's the outside's frozen, so that's what shatters, and then we get like an opening, like if you literally open somebody's leg up, and he does it with the legs, and finally finishes off with the face shot. The face shot was awesome. I love the eye moving around, him still being alive in there. Thought that kill was great. We also get a, I would say, almost a nod to the original Terrifier. We get a reverse crotch to head kill, but we get it on a male this time with a fucking chainsaw.
Yeah, so this is the one that I really want to talk about. So to bring up the character that I talked about earlier is we have a very annoying young, like college, like probably early 20s girl who's got her and her friend have this there's a billion of them fucking true crime podcasts, right?
Goddamn podcasts are so fucking annoying.
Yeah, and they're literally, hounding the survivors of the Miles County massacre to be on their fucking show, which is a really shitty thing to do.
Their show that we see, they talk shit about them on the show.
Yeah, so in this girl, two different times, she inserts herself into a conversation to get to Jonathan and Sienna. And I couldn't wait for her to die. I literally could not fucking wait. She is very much like one of those, like, I'm trying to be an influencer girl. Doesn't have any kind of like awareness of what you should and shouldn't do. It's all about her. She's the main character in her own movie. And we fucking see Art kill her and her annoying boyfriend with a fucking chainsaw. And dude, when he fucking chainsaws her up and he puts the little glasses on her.
Well, this is my favorite part of this entire kill, because prior to this, like right before this scene, she's talking to her boyfriend about how she wants them on the show so bad because she wants to see somebody who has been around the presence of evil and what they feel, what the evil smells like, what it looks like when you look evil in the eyes. And I was thinking about it this whole scene. Please take those glasses off before she dies. And after he cuts her up while she's still breathing, he squats down and takes his glasses off to look her in the eyes because he overheard the conversation. And that was my favorite part. Like, the practical effects, everything was awesome. But when he bends down to look her in the eye, because he heard her conversation, heard her say, like, what's it like to look evil in the eye before you die?
Yeah.
And for him to bend down and take those Christmas glasses off and look her in the fucking eyes as she's dying was so fucking savage.
Yeah, and then we just talked about how awesome it would be if Damien Leone did a fucking Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. And after seeing this scene, I want that 1,000 times more.
God, yeah, that would be great.
Because what we see with this chainsaw, we literally see him like put a chainsaw in a guy's ass.
Yeah, and then, that was the kind of nod to the original Upside Down. It wasn't a chainsaw, but it was a hacksaw.
Yeah.
But we get the male version of it this time, and he flips him over, and literally we see his dick and balls get chainsawed up.
Chainsawed up, man. He literally cuts him in half, just like the first one, but he's lying on the floor, and then his halves fall apart, and you see everything.
Man, I don't think that there is a better example of, at least in slashers and horror, practical effects. Like, as far as like gore practical effects, I don't think there is I think this has set the standard.
Yeah, I agree.
Even for somebody like Tom Savini to come on and work on your movie, because it's so, everybody knows the Terrifiers are known for the gore and the amazing practical effects that are in them. So for somebody like Tom Savini to come work under Damien Leone, somebody who is literally he is the legend, the man himself. He is literally created a lot of the practical effects that we seen in the 70s and 80s, and he literally created those before they had ever been done. For him to come work under Damien Leone goes to show you just how much respect that this movie gets in that field, and it's incredible, man.
Another awesome kill was the guy in the attic that finds Art like sitting in, because I guess Art's like just was recharging for 5 years. He just sits in his chair and just like freezes.
I loved that too. When they go in there, we get the 5 years later, and not only is Art still sitting there with the same smile on his face, he's got spider webs that has taken over his head and shit, but Vicky, who slit her wrists in the bathtub, is now sitting in this sludge of like decomposition and blood, and she's been sitting in here for 5 years waiting for, something to kind of wake them up. And this guy, they were going to demo the house, and the guy goes up there, and I thought his kill was great too.
Yeah, he literally cuts his head. Like he starts from his forehead with a razor blade and cuts like all the way down his scalp and literally peels the guy's fucking head like a banana.
I forgot this scene, and this is one that like kids that do end up seeing this is probably going to stick in their head. I think it's up there with like when I was a kid and I seen the Evil Dead kill where the tree goes up her leg and literally like goes up inside of her, and that always stood out to me. I don't know, it's because the private parts of it, I guess, and the holy shit, did they really go there in a movie? Another good example is The Exorcist, when Reagan is literally like stabbing her badge with the crucifix. Like that stood out in my head. They did a scene like that I think is going to stand out in a lot of people's head, which is why this kill is taking place. Vicky has taken a shard of glass and she is
masturbating
fucking herself with it. Yeah, and it's like it's brutal.
It is a wild scene.
I thought it was awesome though. It was one of those scenes that's going to stand out in people's head. There's so much awesome killing. I can't believe I even forgot about it, because I seen that I was like, oh my god, she is literally masturbating with a shard of glass. Very, very hardcore. Like she's getting into it while watching Art the Clown peel this guy's fucking skin back. And to live up to the reputation of what we talked about in part 2, they rip a lot of faces off.
Yes, they do.
They like ripping faces off. So another kill, the last one we'll mention. So her aunt, Sienna's aunt, is tied up in this chair. And they take like this funnel. It looks like one of the funnels that like Christmas ornaments or something would come into.
Like a tube.
Yeah, it's a tube, not a funnel. It's literally a clear tube.
Yeah.
And they shove it in her mouth. Art hammers it down into her mouth and like breaks all the way down, like breaks her jaw to hold it open and shit. And then they take rats and they put rats in the tube, and he takes a fucking like a butane torch and heats it up to where the rats run down inside of her. And they put multiple rats in, like eating their way through her throat. And then to finish it off, they slit her throat. And when the rats fell out of her throat, it was like, holy shit.
Yeah, that was, I actually I think I did that thing, where you go like, oh, like, I'm pretty sure I did that during that scene. That was one of the few things in the movie that gave me like goosebumps. Like it gave me the heebie-jeebies where I was like, holy shit. I think I shifted myself in my chair.
Yeah, I think that kill is one, that stands up with the part 2 kill, the bedroom scene. It wasn't nearly as long or torturous, but it's so gruesome, brutal, and yet creative at the same time. I also think that the liquid nitrogen kill was awesome. I wouldn't put that up there quite on the level of like Brooke getting her fucking chest smashed in or the bedroom scene, but it's up there. The chainsaw scenes were like, I mean, you can't get
Phenomenal.
much more like brutal and just crazy than that. I would put that up there with them. I think that this movie is full of kills that stand up there with the two major ones from part 1 and part 2. And there's so many that we don't even have time to get to.
Yeah. So, what is your favorite kill of Terrifier 3?
Oh man, favorite kill. I'm going to say the one that stands out to me the most is the one in the attic where he peels that guy's fucking skin back after he kills him. And I'm going to say because of her masturbating with the shard of glass while it was going on, that one probably stands out the most. I would also put the chainsaw kill probably is the best and best brutal kill. Both of those, there's two of them, but him bending down and looking her in the eye as she's dying, and then him doing the part 1 kill with the chainsaw to her boyfriend. That's got to be number 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Chainsaw too. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
I do want to say for kills really quick though, one that's obviously doesn't stand out in the best kills, but was fucking awesome, and I don't know why the timing of it was so amazing. But the Santa scene in the bar where there's 3 dudes in the bar, it's like the 2 guys and the bartender are like trying to kick his ass, and he reaches into his bag and pulls out a gun and shoots that guy in the fucking head. I thought that was great because you never, even knowing art, you never expect a slasher to pull out a gun and shoot somebody. That's what I love art. He's done it in all of them.
Every movie, yeah.
And I've loved it every time.
All right, so what is your top of the head rating for this movie?
Oh, top of the head rating.
Just whatever you came out of the theater, this is what I give it.
You know, without doing a deep dive in it, just how I felt coming out of the theater, I'm going to say a 4.9.
Whoa. Wow.
Well, I gave part 2, I think a 4.5 after the deep dive.
4.9, okay.
No, I think I gave part 2 4.8 coming out of the theater. When it comes to cinematography and stuff and the way it was shot to feel like that 80s in the second one, the cinematography felt the same. They gave this one that classic feel, like that old school horror feel, the way it was shot.
I said in the beginning, he wanted to make it look like he even shot it on the old panoramic camera to give it that old John Carpenter feel.
And it feels like that. Like it from the very first scene, you're like, okay, they did it again. Like they're shooting it to feel like that classic fucking horror. And so it was, like I said, without doing a deep dive on it, the practical effects and the cinematography, thought the score was great, and just the shit that they did, and then pushing on the story. Like Vicky, when she's at the end, like she's legitimately fucking scary. Like I seen that and I'm like, this would have scared the fuck out of me as a kid. Like I would have loved it because I loved horror movies as a kid, but this would have been one of those moments that I was laying in bed that night thinking about.
I gave it a 4. Solid 4. After just doing Terrifier 2 and, watching it multiple times a couple weeks ago, I like Terrifier 2 better. Not to say this one is, I won't say it's not as good, but I liked Terrifier 2 better, and I liked the story, I guess, of Terrifier 2 a little bit better. I haven't quite figured out why exactly I like it better, but coming out of the theater, this is definitely, like, if I was to put them in order, I'd say 2, 3, 1. That's kind of what I feel at the moment. I actually cannot wait to watch it again so I can absorb the rest of the movie, because I always get this, like, big excitement, anticipation, and I watch it, and I always feel like I'm going to fucking miss something. And I like the Christmas, but I feel like Terrifier belongs in the Halloween. Like it's a more of a Halloween style movie for me. But I did like that they tried something different, and it wasn't bad. It was awesome. I like Sienna better when she was badass than what we get now.
I do like, it's 17, 18-year-old Sienna when she still had that, she hadn't been fucking wrecked mentally for 5 years. I do like that version of her better. But it just makes sense for the story considering, his body was never found. They were going to obviously be looking at this girl who's coming up with these crazy fucking stories and stuff. And it makes sense that she would be fucked up after this. I wish they'd have made her a little stronger. But I think I take that back. I think I gave a 4.8 to Terrifier 2. And I gotta say, man, I would have to watch this one again and do a deep dive on it before I could put a definite order on them. I think that this one is on the same level, at minimum, as Terrifier 2. I agree with you. I wouldn't want to see every one of these in Christmas, but I think, and we know from December last year, we have a really hard time finding really good Christmas horror movies to cover. And I think we just got a new best Christmas horror movie.
All right, so I want to end this by saying, tell us what you thought about Terrifier 3. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? We really want to hear what you guys think. So with that said, once again, we thank you guys for listening. Please give us a follow or like if you enjoy the show. Check out the website, check out the socials, tell a friend, a family member, or a killer Santa clown about the show. And we hope to see you next time.